Welcome to China Paradigm, a show powered by Dashi Consulting, where we interview seasoned entrepreneurs and experienced managers in China about their business and experience in the country. Hello everyone, I'm Matthieu David, the founder of Dashi Consulting and its podcast, China Paradigms. And today I am someone with, I think will be very interesting to interview. To give you a sense of who she is, Cotton Ding is from Wuhan and started a business at the age of 26. And she has been managing a restaurant for 17 years. 17 years. I don't think you have many restaurants in Shanghai which have survived 17 years. You started at a time which now resonates even more than before. You started in 2003 during the SRAS. At least it was during this year that we had this outbreak of SRAS. And currently in 2020, we are late March 2020 when we record. We are in the middle of the epidemic in Europe and the US, and we seem that we have handled it in China. You have two venues now for cottons. You had three in the past, and that's something we could be very interesting to understand as well, how you manage all of them. A few numbers about the industry. First, this is an industry which has been hit hard by the coronavirus recently. It's about 90 million people in all China who lost their job temporarily. And it's about, in terms of revenues, 70 to 80% down for the first quarter. So it has been damaging a lot the industry, an industry which is about 1.8 trillion yuan for the month of January last year in 2019 in China. A sizable industry which represents about 6% of the economy. So it has been affecting a lot of people. It has been hard to navigate. Some companies, large companies, were saying they have only 2 months of cash, and if the epidemic was here to stay, they would be out of business. So navigating during those times has been certainly a challenge. But you have been here for 17 years now, managing few restaurants, or 2 to 3 restaurants, and we have a lot of questions for you, Cotton. Thank you for being with us.
Hi everyone. Hello Matthieu. Nice to be here.
What would you say about my introduction? Anything you'd like to add, or anything you'd like to correct?
It's quite a good introduction. I opened Cottons from since 2003, 17 years ago, and for past 17 years we've been here. Now we have 2 locations, and it's quite a good journey. The interesting thing is we opened 2003 during SARS. And now we have coronavirus, and I'm in quarantine actually.
Right now you're in quarantine because your husband came back from overseas and you have to stay in quarantine with him. China has been very strict on it. I just finished my quarantine. I'd like to go back to the start. You have been working in a factory in Shanghai 20 years ago, coming from Hunan. Hunan is a province in China where is famous for a few things, food, which is very spicy, and also it's a province where Mao Zedong was born. It's a big province. I think it's like 60 million people. And you came from Hunan to Shanghai to initially work in a factory, to then work as a bartender. And you had the idea of starting a restaurant when someone asked you, oh, you are the owner of the restaurant or the bar, you should do that, you should do that. And then it came to you, the idea that you could be the owner, you could be the manager. Could you tell us more about the start? And it was in 2003.
Yeah, that's quite interesting. So I was in Shanghai back 1997. My first visit in Shanghai, actually, I was a factory worker. So I'm making about 350 RMB per month in salary. So I've been working the factory for about a year. Then I go back to hometown. Then at 2001, I come back to Shanghai. again. And the story, actually, you actually already described very well how I started as from bartender to owner. So the small story is I was just a graduate from in Guangzhou province, and I moved to Shanghai. Cannot find a job as a graphic designer. So I go back as a bartender to working in a restaurant again. Just after seven months,
I'm sorry to interrupt, but that should have been a lot of frustration. You studied interior design, and you then found a job as a bartender in Shanghai. Wasn't it that frustrating?
It's actually it is very frustrating. Basically, I come to Shanghai. I always describe to people that I come to Shanghai. I was broken because I was I broken in all the way. I broken. My wallet was broken because all my money went to the university, and my dream was broken because I want to be an interior designer, but I couldn't. So I accepted a job as a bartender when I was saving money to go to university. And the heart was broken. I broken with my boyfriend. So I come to Shanghai. 2001 was broken all the way.
And you found the energy, so to be a bartender for 7 months. Sorry, I interrupted you. So we 7 months as a bartender, and what happened there?
So I think the key point for me to the key turning point in my life is I decided I'm tired of being broken. So I decided if I couldn't find the job I want, so I'm going to turn the job I'm doing to be my dream job. So that's the decision changed everything. So I realized how much I love to be a bartender and how good I was. So once you change your mind, your life change.
What do you like about it?
Everything. I love the interaction with the customer. I love behind the bar. So I always tell people, behind the bar it is a stage. Who you are and how you. We are in the business of connecting with people, talking with them, and making them feel good. So that's amazing. Yeah,
I see. It makes sense now. I understand better the transition because you like sociability, you really like to interact with people. Then it makes sense that at some point you wanted to have your own restaurant and your own venues because you like to be to listen to your clients and customers and interact with them. I like to now give a sense to your current business and situation now, because that's usually actually the question I start with. I went to one of your venue 2 years ago, and I saw the picture of the other ones. It's beautiful. Inside is beautiful. We see that you like design, the colors, the lights. I see. We can understand all the effort. There are gardens as well. So it's restaurants with gardens. You have a capacity, you said, of 200 people for each place. You can go up to 800 if it's booked for an event. Would you mind sharing a bit more about now, 2020? What's the size of your business? Any numbers in terms of team revenues? As we said, number of seats. Sorry, I already disclosed it. It's 200 people in each venue.
Yeah, we both of the locations, they are beautiful historic mansions. So the capacity is about 200 if we sit down. And if there's a party going on, so we could host around 800, even 1,000 in one time. So if you imagine the scope of the business is in a weekday, we catering about between both venue about 400 guests a day, and in a weekend we catering about 800 guests a day, and our average bill is about 200 RMB per person. So you do the math. So
Okay, good. For people who are good at math, they would calculate. But basically, you are about 40,000 if my calculation is good per day, and you would be certainly about 80,000 more every day on weekend. To make people understand where you are, location is in Xinhualu and Antinglu, the cross, I would say Kaojin in Chinese. It's a ex-French concession, former French concession, as we say. It's a very good location. I think it's expensive to rent it. You started 17 years ago. So I believe, cost-wise, and we understand now your top revenues, 200 people, 200 RMB per seat on average. What about the cost? I feel a lot of business don't survive 10 years, even 5 years, or even a year, because of the rent increase. Could you share more about the cost of the rent and how you have been able to manage it over the last 17 years in a very good place?
So the rent increase between both places almost doubled for last 10 years. So it's quite a big increase compared with how much we overprice increase. We try to a healthy business. We look at the rent is we try to manage the rent to 20% of the revenue.
I see. So it's a good matrix.
Yeah, if you manage your rent 20% of the revenue, you are in a very good financial and shape.
Okay, that's your goal, right? Your goal is to stay at 20%.
Yeah, that's the goal. So we have to, with the increase of the rent, we just need to increase the business, basically push more business. Yeah. For the beginning, for example, how we push the business. For beginning, we don't open for lunch. We don't open for afternoon tea. So we open only for 6 p.m., right? So then with the year, so we start to open for lunch, 11 to 2, and then we eat afternoon tea. So you extend your business hour. So that's how, yeah.
What we say in the food and in restaurant business, we say there's nothing more expensive than an empty seat, right? So that's what you did. Right. You try to have someone on a seat all day long for lunch, for afternoon, and so on.
Yeah. And one thing we did very well is for brunch. So I think that once a year we just open, we have very few customers for brunch, and now our brunch is packed every day and every weekend. So this year started because of coronavirus. What we're trying to do is we open for brunch every day. So that's again either different business hours, and we try to do what. So if something work, so we are try to just copy. If a formula which is working, so you push it more.
I'm not getting it, the link with the coronavirus. You're opening brunch every day now, including the weekdays, because people don't have to go to office, right?
Yeah, even during the weekdays, we open for brunch now. Before, we only open for brunch Saturday, Sunday, and Saturday, Sunday, we always full. We already, just for the brunch, we already have 200 guests.
Very interesting. That's very interesting. That's what I really like in your story, is that you're able to catch opportunities, to innovate step by step with teeny changes like this. Like coronavirus is happening. People have more free time because they don't go to office during weekdays, right? They are not authorized to commute too much, to go too far, whatever. So let's do brunch every day. And that's very, very interesting learning.
Yeah, and also what we're doing now is also we're trying to do delivery. So our delivery was a disaster for before. We never really pay any attention to delivery, and this year we try to delivery. It's still very small. The number is still very small, but it's increasing every day. So we see the effort we are put on the. So yeah.
Very interesting. I like to go into delivery and online sets later on more deeply, but first I like to finish on the revenue and cost structure. So you said about 20% for the rent. What about the team? You said that the rent has doubled over 10 years. To be honest,
Yes.
I'm not that surprised, and I feel even you manage quite well the increase, because I think my apartment over 10 years, it may have more than doubled, or it has doubled, I would say, as a rent, but I would have expected that a place like yours would have more than doubled. So that's not something I'm very surprised. But about salary, you said that you were making 450 RMB in 97. So I believe that the salaries may have increased even more. Would you mind sharing a bit more about the cost structure on salaries? And what do you have to do? What do you have to pay when you hire people in the restaurant business? To give more insights and background story. I remember talking to people in Beijing. I used to work and live in Beijing. They told me that they have to pay for the rent for the workers. They have to pay for waiters and waitresses. They have to pay for the 宿舍, right, which is dormitories. And they have to find the dormitories to provide to them. And of course, there is a salary. Would you mind sharing a bit more about what's the cost structure in terms of team?
Compare the number for how much the salary we pay to now, and it's increased 400 times basically.
400 times or plus 300%? 4 times, right?
Yeah, 4 times. So
4 times. Okay.
So back, my salary back 2003 was like. No, okay, sorry. When I just started in food and beverage in 1998, my salary is about 500.
Yeah.
And then 2003, if you hire someone, you pay about 1,500 RMB. And now now you cannot find anyone below 5,000, I think.
When you say 5,000, you say with taxes and so on, or it's net for them? Net 5,000.
It's net.
Do you provide accommodation or?
We provide a dormitory. We provide food allowance. So the salary structure what we have actually is very flexible. We have the basic salary, but we also have a bonus and welfare and other welfares.
I see. Are there other costs we are missing here? There are variable costs about the food you buy, the drinks you buy, and so on. Are there other costs we are missing except the fixed cost?
We always talk about the fixed cost is always the rent and the salary, right? So that's a fixed cost, and the food and drinking costs is between 21% to 31%.
Wow, you are very precise. Why 21 and 31?
It's different managers, different restaurants have a different price structure, and depends how well you really look after the costs.
Okay, interesting.
So, really very well managed restaurants, they could go for the drinks. They could go down the 21%. That's what we talk about. Really very good managed restaurant. And if you go to 31%, you still okay. But anything over 31%, that will be it's difficult for business. Then you don't have any margin.
I see. I think one of the difficulty of managing a restaurant is to make sure you don't waste food, you don't waste your drinks. When you open a bottle of wine, you make sure to finish it because you cannot reuse it the day after. Would you mind sharing how you manage your inventory and purchasing every day when you are not totally sure about how many people are going to come and what they are going to order?
Okay. We talk about managing a lot. I remember a few years ago, people asked me, how do you manage so many people? We have around 50 full-time staff and actual, like around the 30 casualties. So my answer is always, no, I don't manage people. I don't like the word manager. I would more say inspire or empower people.
I see.
So in my business, we talk about you talk about the cost. I let them to decide. The chef know how many. After 1 week, they know how many dishes we a day we serving, and what's most popular, and what is the ingredients we use. So they understand better than me. So the bartender, because they are the one manages the daily operation every day.
I see. You manage empowering them.
Yeah, I let them decide. Of course we have procedure, we have checklist, we have minimum storage of each items, but the people are the key ingredients in this process.
How do you make it happen? How do you empower them? Because the difficulty, I mean, the idea is nice, and I think a lot of entrepreneurs want to do that, but implementing it is hard because it's hard to make everyone aware and responsible for the fate of the company. Is it that you do a profit sharing model? Is it because is it the way you interact with them? You let them speak? How do you do?
There's a few ways. As I mentioned about the salary earlier, so not everybody have a fixed salary. Of course, you have basic salary, but then you also have bonus and incentive. So when business is good, your income is better. So everybody are striving to have a good business, because the business is good, everybody's income is better. Same with chefs. So if the cost is lower, they have also better bonus.
I see. Would you mind sharing about how sizable the bonus can be? Are we talking about plus 10%, plus 20%, plus 5% for them on a monthly basis?
So the bonus should be, if structurally you have your basic salary, but then there's a 30% difference in a good month and in a bad month.
It's very sizable.
Yeah.
Which month is good, for instance? Is it December? Is it February?
Our best month is September, May, October. So weather is good. We have very, very good business.
You have a garden.
Yeah, because we are like a farmer. We really depend on the garden. So when the weather is bad, then the winter time, then the business is low.
So you said you motivate the team by the bonus, so profit sharing model in some way. You look at the revenue minus the cost, and in some way you give them a percentage. Interesting, because this is exactly what we do actually in our company. What else do you do to create this team spirit where people are willing to share and contribute and so on?
Yes, we have a company cultural training. So every year, if we have a new team, so I make sure they are with me to go through the company cultures, to do company culture. So for me, I don't believe people will work for me forever, and I also don't believe they work for me. Actually, they work for themselves and for a better future. And I'm provide a good platform for them. So they use, and once they are ready, they could open their own restaurant or bar. They can take off. So that's our atmosphere at the Cartons.
I see. Interesting. I'm not sure opening a restaurant now is in some way as reachable that when you did it in 2003.
Yeah, that's. But what I say is, when people work for somebody else, it's a different feeling than when you're working for yourself. So if everyone in Cartons, they feel like they're working for themselves, it's a very different working mess.
Yeah, there is a saying from people from Wenzhou saying that they would prefer to sleep on the floor and have their own business than working in a company for someone. Seems that it seems that it's a little bit your mindset really to master your own destiny and your own life with your own business, if I'm correct.
Yeah.
So
and also it's a fun working environment. It's you are interacting with people. The staff is having fun, so that's what we're trying also to do.
I'd like to talk a little bit about what has happened in January, February, and March in China and what's happening now in the rest of the world, the coronavirus. So I'd like to talk about it with two perspectives. The first one is a Chinese perspective to understand what happened. And the second one is an inspiring perspective to inspire people in the West, all over the world actually, business owners and restaurant owners on how to manage and if they could manage the same way in their own country. I'd like to share a few numbers. So as we said, the industry, the food and beverage industry, the restaurant industry is about 6% of the GDP in China. So it's sizable. It's about 9 million people who have been laid off during that time. It has been a very strong impact. We are seeing the same in the West. The shutdown rate for different segments, for instance, for fast food, 62% of the restaurants were shut down at some point during the epidemic. Coffee shop was like 83%. Bar was 2/3, like 66%. Basically, we are talking about 2/3 to 80% of shutdown for a few weeks and some for a few months when we talk about Hubei and Wuhan. China is specific because it's very digitalized. Delivery is working. I don't know how you would say, but actually it's very common to get delivered, and you have digital payment very very widespread. So in some way it would be different from Europe and the US, which is not as developed on those elements. But would you mind sharing about how you manage those hard times? What decisions you made when you knew it would be hard and you knew you would be shut down?
We started shutdown actually January 24, and when the news is out, and I know we won't be open the whole entire February. So basically we've been closed for 5 weeks, and we open March 1st. So now we've been open for one month now. So the moment when I heard about the outbreak, I was panic. I really was. I couldn't sleep, and I was really worried about the business because I know in 2003 during the SARS, 35% the food and beverage they didn't survive. They closed the door forever, and I know something very big is coming, and we should be in survival mode.
Xibei, a very big restaurant chain, very openly communicated in the press, saying that they have 3 months of cash if they are still closed. And I was very surprised that I saw a lot of people buying Xibei online. I think it was a very smart move actually from the manager to say, we only have 3 months to survive. And I feel that people bought online and got delivered Xibei. Would you mind sharing a bit more about actions you made? Because the restaurant was shut down, but does it mean that delivery was shut down as well?
The restaurant is shut down and our delivery also shut down. So basically we closed for 5 weeks. Xibei was right. Most restaurants, they have only 3 months cash to run. Since we are a business for 17 years, and also our business is really very seasonal. We have a summertime, very good business, wintertime, very slow business. So in our business, we have the habit of save for the rainy day.
I see.
So we have a little bit extra cash to save because we know, business is not always the good days. And we save cash for two reasons. One is we save for the rainy day, and the second is we save if the opportunity comes. Maybe we open a new location to expand. So when the business is good in the summer, we always try to save. We don't spend all. We always try to save, and I think that is something which we've been doing for 10, 15 years, and this is something which sort of in this time we have less stress and we have a better chance to survive a long term.
I have another interpretation that February is low season, generally speaking, for a lot of businesses because people don't work. It's Chinese New Year. And I have a sense of that has a bit softened the impact, the economic impact. Is it correct?
Yes, it's definitely, indeed, February is our slowest month. So when we predict cash flow, we already know February we won't generate a lot of income. So we already saved for February.
It's as if the crisis in Europe or the US would happen in August, where actually a lot of companies are closing and business is very slow. So I feel it in some way that has softened the impact. What about after crisis? So what we understand, you shut down for 4 weeks, no business at all. Yeah. Nobody could join your restaurant, but you could not deliver neither, so nothing. You had to pay your rent. You certainly had to pay most of the salaries. What about 1st of March and the month of March? What did you see in the habits of people? How did they change? One learning already we have, you said earlier, you implemented brunch all over the week so that because people don't go to office anymore because they work in a more remote way, they would come actually in the morning to your restaurant, or they would look for a place. And coffee shop, I think it took time for Starbucks to reopen fully, I think. So coffee shop may not have been opened as well. I see maybe an opportunity you caught. What else has changed in terms of consumer habits, in terms of way of selling? You mentioned as well delivery. You did more delivery. Would you mind sharing?
Yeah, once we noticed if we used to be always an evening business. So our evening revenue is always like 80%, even 90% of our revenue. But now we really noticed in the daytime, brunch time has increased. Our brunch, basically, since March, our brunch business is better than last year in the daytime. So we increased our brunch business, and people feel more after dark. People don't want to go out. You know, in the daytime when sun is out, people feel going out for brunch, going out to have a coffee. So that is one habit I really realized. So we have to really push our brunch. That's one thing we did, and a lot of things for delivery. But we still need working very hard because the delivery is not there. If before was 1%, now maybe we have 5% of business, but it still couldn't pay the bill.
Why do you say couldn't pay the bill? Because delivery, in some way, you just share a percentage of the not the profit, but the revenues with a delivery platform like Ulema. Is because they take 10-15% that's damaging so much your margins that you cannot be profitable?
Because our business model, I think, because our business model is still people, you know, it's not only food, but it's a social perspective. You know, people can always have a burger and sandwich at home, but the social aspect it cannot take away.
I see. So the drinks basically, right? Because when you socialize, you consume drinks and alcohol, and this is where margin is higher than food. When you deliver only food, you may be at a lower margin.
Yeah.
Okay, I got it. What about working with those platforms like Ulema we mentioned? How do they work? What do you have to consider when you work with those platforms, and how much margin do they take you?
So with Ele.me, last year they take 18%, and this year they take 20%.
Okay, it's increased.
Yeah, same with Sherpas. I think Sherpas also do 20%.
It's huge, 20% of revenues, right?
Yeah, it's very, very big. And Sherpas do 20%, Ele.me do 20%, and Sherpas have this encourage. So if you deliver nice percentages, they will come. But we are still in this 20% range.
Does it change because of the weather? I heard from someone who managed coffee shops. But coffee shop, coffee is a price point maybe lower than yours. So we're talking about 10, 15, 20 maybe. They have, she has to pay more when it's raining. Is it the case?
No, it's the same basically. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, we understand that you change your opening hours and what you offer to be more balanced all over the day. One key learning from the coronavirus crisis and change in consumer. And second element is more delivery, which is a bit obvious in China because it's so well organized and so easy to deliver. Does it mean that Sherpas and Ele.me are bringing you new client, or is it your own client who go to the platform to buy from you?
Maybe a little bit of both. I haven't really do the number yet. The database is still in the back office, but I think many is our own clients.
Okay. Because their objective should be also to bring you new clients. That's why they may justify the 20%, which is pretty high.
Yeah, I agree. I hope for in the future, because we haven't working with them for very long. We still only try to push for last months. So it's still too short to see. The time is too short to see. Sure.
You mentioned in one interview in the past that you have been able to go through a lot and without being hit. So during 17 years, so without being hit by license violations, urban development, debts or jail, etc. Would you mind sharing about the big mistakes that restaurants are making that shut them down? Not only business. So we understand if you don't make a profit, you have to shut down. Fine. That's the case of many businesses and in the restaurant business as well. But what about license violations, as you say, urban development and debts or jail? Are there three common threats for restaurant?
I'm more very conservative when doing business, because there's so many elements for business to follow. So why take the risk to open a restaurant without the license? So for me, it's always low. For me, before I sign the contract, I need to make sure we could have the proper license. So this is something, the risk I'm not willing to take.
Is it hard to get it? Why people would manage a restaurant without it? Is it because it's hard to get?
Yes, it is. It is hard to get. Yeah.
How long does it? Why is it hard? Because there are a lot of controls, or it takes time because it's expensive.
There's quite a different because you need to get the environment license, the food and drink license, and then there's also a very restriction about your kitchen size, the setup and everything. I think it's definitely worth to go through all the troubles. Of course, there's a lot of troubles. It takes 1 month, 2 months, 3 months to get the proper license, but always get the license, because the loss of the business, the risk is too high to don't have that.
Yeah, that's something. There's a misconceptions between the West. The West toward China and business in China. A lot of Western people still think that China is not very regulated, but actually you have, that you can skip the regulations. But actually you have a lot of regulations and you have to follow them in China. You have taxes on salaries, you have social insurance to pay, which is not small, even compared to Europe. Actually, it's comparable to Europe. That's a misconception. Do you feel the same?
I think maybe before 2010, back in 2003, it is a cowboy country. There's a lot of gray area. People could get away with open a business without a license. But this is a risk for this risk matters for each individual, each business owner, they need to think about it. And after 2010, after the World Expo, is very clearly if you don't have a business license, you will get shut down.
One thing I like to dig in more is, especially because you have a background of interior design, you insist on some articles on having your own identity. So I understood that you have your own identity with a team. You have your own values, you have your own culture, and you have to develop it. What about the identity towards the customers, the people who join for lunch, for dinner, and our brunch? Would you mind sharing about what's the identity over the last 7 years, and why you have built this identity? Is it because of yourself? Is it because of actually the contact of the customers? Is it because it's working and you find an opportunity?
So, you've been to Curtains. So both the Curtains, they are located in a historic home, basically. So you don't feel like you go to a restaurant. You feel like you go to your home, maybe your grandma's home in Europe. So that's the idea I try to create is we go to a friend's home, we go to a friend's living room, and so this ambience, that's what I try to create.
I see. And you do it yourself for the interior design and so on, or you have hired people to do that?
I have a designer I work with from England to working together with me for all my projects. So Peter, a good friend of mine, he understands what I want very well, and then we work together to create a nice environment, a home away from home. That's what I always tell Peter.
What changes you have followed in the identity of the brand, Cotton's brand, since 2003? I believe it has changed. In one article, you said that in 2003, let's say 90% of your clients were expats, foreigners, and now, the date of the article, but it's already somewhere a few years now, you had 40% of local people from Shanghai. I believe that's affecting also the way you communicate on your identity and your brand identity. Would you mind sharing more about your clients, how they have evolved, who they are now, and how it has evolved the identity?
When we just open, it's like almost 100% all for foreign communities. So we have like 99% foreigner, and now we have about 55% foreigner, and then we have 45% Chinese community, and they are very important. So with the new clientele and the new community, so we have to design the menu also appeal to them, and the drinks appeal to them. Even the way of service we appearing.
Very interesting. Can we dig deeper into it? Does it mean that you had to add baijiu in your menu, for instance? Does it mean that what elements did you have to change?
We don't have baijiu yet, but definitely we have a lot of different juices. We have various different teas. We need also in the menu have a bit Asian favorite. Like Pai Thais, so few Asian dishes should be added there for Chinese clientele.
Spicy, more spicy compared to. I feel that Chinese would feel like French food very untasty because it's not spicy enough. For instance, what do you feel you had to adapt? Not only because it's Asian, only because the effect of Western food, the enjoyment of Western food is different.
For most clients, they come to Curtains. They come here not for eat Chinese food. They come here to eat actually Western food, and they like to original Western food. So I think they are more care about the ingredients. So where the cheese come from, where the ham come from, and that is something they really care more than, because they don't need to come here for Hunan or for so they come for Western food to try different ingredients. I think.
I'm curious about yourself and the business. you said that it was mostly for dinner in the past. Does it mean that you were staying all dinner in the restaurant and then sacrificing your all your evenings to the restaurant? How do you manage your life with a business which is the opposite of a personal life, because you have to be there when people have free time, and so you don't have free time when the rest of the world has free time? How do you manage that?
I think that's the nature of the business. Everyone in food and beverage, we never have Christmas. We never have Chinese New Year. When people working, we will have holiday, which is very rare. And when people who having holiday we're working, so this is just something, and I love it. I like evening. I'm not a morning person, so this interview is 11:30 is quite early for me. It's okay. Very morning.
But it's interesting. I think that's something we don't see, but you choose a business as well when you start a business, which may fit also who you are. If you are a morning person, or if you are an evening person, if you are someone who likes to socialize, or if you are someone who likes more technical things and not to socialize but focusing on the product itself, that's also a choice you have to make and be aware when you start a business, right?
I agree. I think so. I think you have to understand who you are and what's your nature and what's the best quality of passion can offer. And
it's not
against that. If you do something is against it, it's difficult, right?
Yeah, it's not only about the product and the profit, right? It's also about the fitting with your own way of life, because if it fits, you will thrive, and if it doesn't fit, you will suffer from it. And it's already hard to start a business. It's more of a doesn't fit with your way of being, that will be hard.
Because I believe business is not a job. It's not like, okay, you go to work 9 to 5. It is a lifestyle. For me, I don't really concern myself, for example, go to work or off day. You are working 24 hours in a way in your mind. So it's a lifestyle you create for yourself. So it's better you suit it, suit your personality. I think that's very important.
I have a few questions to end the interview. I believe we sent them to you earlier. What books, or could be movies, could be poems, whatever, have inspired you in your entrepreneur journey? Or it could be meeting with people. But what has inspired you the most? We haven't sent you the question before.
Yeah. It's interesting because I love reading, and I read a lot. So not necessarily business book, not necessarily one categories. So for me, what inspired me is when people really enjoy what they're doing. When so that's also. That is empowering.
If you had one book to recommend to emphasize this element, to do what you love. By the way, the name of the third venue you had, Lychee, was coming from Yang Guifei, which was one of the concubines of the emperor a long time ago, the 8th century emperor Xuanzong, and she loved lychee, and she got delivered lychee from south of China. Was very expensive at the time. So I see that from what you do, you try to find a root, to give sense, to find something which is a bit more with substance. So would you mind sharing with us one book, if you had, which is representing, embodying what you just said? Or two books, if it's easier.
Now I'm actually looking to my bookshelf and trying to find something. And okay, let me just give me a second.
Sure.
Okay, I just pour out a book from my bookshelf. The name is from Robert Greene, and 33 Strategy of the War. 33 Strategy of War. So I believe Robert Greene.
Okay.
So it's a very, for me, I think this is a very good business book. I believe, in a way, life is a war and business is a war too, right? To really to be able to win the battle, you really need to understand your own strengths and also your own opponents.
But what do you fight for? Because when there is a war, we fight for something. Is it for self-expression? Is it for making a mark in the world? What to fight for?
I believe is the first. Okay, I believe what we fight, of course, first to overcome the coronavirus, to survive. Yeah, to be here, and to make a difference, to give impact for whoever work for you, like your staff, and then also give a positive impact to your customer, to be remembered. I think this is something what we fight for, to be remembered, not forgiven.
To be remembered. Interesting. What do you read to be up to date about business in China? For instance, we are in a world which is changing fast. Myself, I'm reading TechCrunch, for instance, to understand about technology. I'm reading New York Times to understand more about the world. I'm reading Caixin and South China Morning Post to know more about China. What would you read to know more about China and your industry? Would it be WeChat groups? Would it be LinkedIn? A lot of people tell me that, but it could be.
If I tell you the answer, you're going to laugh at me. If I tell you the answer, you're going to laugh at me. I read WeChat.
WeChat, yeah, but actually, that's something I found out. A lot of people saying WeChat and LinkedIn for some way. Reason being is that you have your own groups which focus on a topic. I believe you have groups about food and beverage, about restaurants, and there is a lot. And then you can interact with the people who provide information to say, is it true? How did you do it? You cannot do that with a journalist. You cannot do that with a paper. And finally, you get the news much more quickly because when something happening, you know it. It's now. A journalist may take like a few weeks to react.
Yeah, that's very true because we have a lot of different group, the restaurant group, customer group, supplier group, management group, and the communication is very fast, very direct, and then you have really very, very close connection with your customer.
True. One thing I see as a danger is that I'm seeing some people spreading fake news and false information, and so I'm balancing it with a little bit of Baidu search and Google search sometimes to make sure that it is really something issued by the government or something else, because sometimes I feel there's a little bit, especially at the time of coronavirus, when we have to act fast and there's a bit of fear everywhere, there's a bit of fake information.
Yeah, I think during coronavirus and everybody is trying to put information there, and that's create a panic, create the unnecessary panic, and people overreact. So try to filter. I will try to filter that because honestly, really, panic doesn't really. There's no any good outcome come from panic. We could only do what we could manage to do, and especially in this difficult time, we have to also first manage our own mental. We have to be positive.
Exactly.
To not be overwhelmed by this.
Yeah, my conclusion is that critical thinking, the ability to be critical in screening information and to use critical thinking is going to be key, more and more important in the coming years to make sure that when there is information which looks a little bit weird, which looks a bit surprising, to be able to know that this one I need really to check. About China, what books would you suggest to foreigners to read about China? What would you recommend? If it's a book, could be a movie as well, but what would you suggest foreigners to read, to watch, to know more about China?
So my friend, a foreign friend of mine, just bought me a book. It's called It's called Dark Heart and Sick Face. So it's a business book about to understand how to do business what's our Chinese older philosophy and how to do business in China.
By whom?
I don't remember the author. I will have to, but the name is called Sick Face. Sick, like sick face and the dark black heart.
Thick, like not black thin, heart. Right? Thick, like a bit fatty, right? Yes. What productivity tool do you like most to use? So we understand that you use WeChat, but WeChat seems to be an unproductive tool because it takes too much of your time, right? So sometimes you are wondering what you do on WeChat, waste all your time. Do you have some productivity tool? I'm especially interested in this question because I feel that you have a good sense of your numbers. You say 45% are local customers, 55% are foreigners. Someone who doesn't look at numbers would say, oh, it's 50-50. It's half-half. But you come up with very precise numbers. So what do you use as productivity tool or digital tools to understand your business and to be productive?
I don't use many tools because basically I spend most of the time in the restaurant. So my back office is quite bad. So the only reason I have such a good level is thanks for the coronavirus. So I have all the time for quarantine to understand my number.
Interesting. Actually, that's a very good point. This time of shutdown, you can worry a lot and spend your time worrying, but you can also look at your numbers and think about what next. What change can you make? By the way, after coronavirus, did you see more business or less business?
I would say this will be a very, very good year. I'm quite positive with 2020. I know we had a very tough start. But I'm still quite positive for this year.
About March, what about March? Is it better this March than last March?
Of course not. My business is 50%.
50% down. I see. Because some people argue that people have been home for 1 month with only sad news, so they would like to go out, to do things, to meet with people. It's still not the case, right?
Not yet. I was much more positive. I saw that maybe in April, people were already going out and then celebrate. But now, because it's not only happening in China, it's also happen globally.
Yeah.
So if we could go back to the normal in May, that is already positive.
If you had extra time to do something else, what idea would you like to work on? What business or what maybe action you would like to dedicate more of your time?
For me, it will be always cartons. That is something I know. So just focus on things and get it better.
So really focused. That's one of the rules of success, right? Is to focus.
Stay focused. So I think this year maybe we could, better. We may even because of this coronavirus. I think we may even have a different opportunity to open a new one. We don't know, but I think we keep our eye open.
What's your analysis? You think you may have opportunities because rents are going down? Do you see that rents are going down, or is it because people consume differently? So you believe that they may behave differently?
I think the rent is going down.
Okay, it's clear. It's very clear. Okay.
10 or 20% should be expecting at least like moderately. There's a lot of empty shop out there now.
I have two last questions. I really like this question, and I really would like to have your view on it. What over the years, over 17 years of managing a business, what has been most surprising to you to see happening in China? I was very surprised how people got used to pay digitally. When I arrived in China 10 years ago, for instance, people were still paying cash when they got delivered home. What do you feel that has been very surprising to you, a success which has been very surprising to you over the years in China?
I think one thing is about the technology. I remember in 2003, when my opening, I have to send out thousands of emails to let people know I opened. And now we just use WeChat. to say, okay, we have a party, we have the promotion. So I think the way people communicate are is amazing. How efficient, how immediately, and how can you reach so like a broad data. So that's something like really blew my mind, I think.
At the opposite, what you have seen as a failure, as failed in China, could be a business, could be something in society that you have witnessed and you wouldn't expect that it would have failed. I give you an example for myself. I'm always surprised that Carrefour had to leave China. When I arrived, Jialefu, right, was 10 years ago, was this very successful retailer, and they have not been able to catch the digital transformation, and they had these sort of properties, very large hypermarkets. They couldn't move fast with them. What would be something which has surprised you that time, not as a success but as a failure?
I remember when I was very young. I remember went to Friday. Yeah, and I was like, wow, that's a very good business, and I was so busy. But Friday didn't make it in Shanghai.
Which one? Which business?
It's called Friday.
What is it about?
It's a restaurant.
Oh, it's a
bar,
okay. Oh, is it Thanks God It's Friday?
No, not this one. Not this one.
Okay, it was from overseas.
Yeah. So you were surprised to see a brand which really success overseas, but it doesn't, and you were thinking you are really happen in China, but it somehow doesn't.
My conclusion on brands which enter China is that they need to rely on the core community which knows them from overseas, but they also have to reinvent their brand because the perception is totally different. Some brands which are famous in the West are not known here, and they have to redo again. They can only rely on people who have studied and worked overseas as Chinese or foreigners who know them. So it's a whole new journey for them.
Yeah, and also you see the old brands like the one which maybe I don't want to make give the names, like the restaurant or the one which is really popular 10 years ago, and now they quiet to fade in the background. I think is because they stop to see the market anymore. They fail to change with the market.
Thank you very much for your time. It was very interesting. I learned a lot. I think people listening to us have learned a lot as well. I hope the crisis is going to be resolved soon. I think China is on a good way, and I share your optimism, at least for China. I hope you enjoyed it, and I thank everyone for listening. Take care and stay safe.